Hello everyone, this is Coach Kent Boyd, Executive Director of Love Akron. And I want to tell you something about, an initiative that was really sparked by, I believe, that lines up with the same heartbeat and the same breath of Dr. King. And it's called our One City Initiative. You know, our One City Initiative, when God spoke, he just simply spoke to the church of the city. And it's very important that we have the one in there because it is about us being just one city. And in our One City Initiative, we began and we started a discussion or a conversation between myself and three other prominent pastors here in our area. One is Pastor Jeff Bogue, who is the senior pastor of Grace Church. The other is Bishop Johnson, who is the founding pastor of the House of the Lord, and also Pastor Tim Armstrong, who is the lead pastor at the chapel. It was Dr. King who said, love is the only force capable of turning an enemy into a friend. And so this is why the four of us are leaning in together to do these conversations. Not that we were ever enemies, but it's because we want to engage with you in our podcast called The Intersection, where the four of us will continue to get together and have these conversations and talk about how race intersects with the church, which intersects with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So we want you to come along on this journey with us to have more and to listen more to these conversations and to see exactly what it is that we're talking about. The Intersection podcast will be available on all streaming platforms this year in 2021. And we look forward to this year meeting you and seeing you at the intersection.
I just wanted to say happy Martin Luther King's Day to everybody and to celebrate for a minute the legacy of this great leader and how that impacts us today. When I think about Martin Luther King and the movement that he led, I think about how that movement has not only addressed civil rights issues, not only been like the foundation for our desire for racial reconciliation and social justice, but nowadays the way that he led that movement and all those surrounding him really has become a pattern of how we need to work through issues together as a culture. His call to nonviolence, his determination to love the neighbor as himself, the way that they would talk and interact while peacefully making their point and their protest, that just represents the best of who we are as a nation and represents kind of something that we need to return to as well. So I'm grateful for Dr. King and his faith. I'm grateful for his legacy. I'm grateful for his impact. I'm also grateful for his example and looking at his example and leaning into that in a new way, I think would be a way that he would once again serve us as we follow the lead that he laid down. So happy Martin Luther King's Day, everybody. Praying for unity, praying for healing, praying for reconciliation, and praying that God allows us to love and serve each other the way that he desires.
As we approach the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, I'm reminded of a line from his I Have a Dream speech. With faith, we will hew from the mountain of despair a stone of hope. The recent events at the Capitol adds to the mountain of despair. Hopelessness looks and feels heavy, formidable, insurmountable. How do we deal with this mountain? Well, we're going to take our paltry tools of ourself, of faith, of perseverance, and prayer, and wield them against the mountain of despair with blood, sweat, and tears, and chisel away at that mountain until we break loose a stone of hope. The stone may not be big, it may not be impressive, but it is a testimony that we have made some dent in the impossible. It is a signal that more stones of hope may be dislodged and that in some distant, unforeseeable future, the mountain may be substantially reduced. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his life to hew a stone of hope from the mountain of despair. We honor his legacy by continuing to strike against the hopelessness of despair with a resiliency that is fresh and unceasing, undergirded by faith in God. May God bless you.
I think as we go through these turbulent times in our country, there's probably no better day to celebrate than Dr. Martin Luther King. What a memorial that is of a man of peace, a man of love. You know, when I think about Dr. Martin Luther King Day, I often think about my childhood. I grew up in a family where there were a number of people who were racist. Many of my friends were racist. In fact, they called Dr. Martin Luther King Day James Earl Ray Day. And when I think about that now, I find that appalling and sickening. But I think the reality is that if Dr. King would have been present while those people were spewing their hatred, he probably would have stood there quietly as a man of peace and as a man of love. He would not be rebelling. He would not be throwing fits of rage or calling people to gather in hatred. You know, you can travel all around this country, and there's pretty much every major city has a highway or a street named after Dr. King. And many of those cities have statues in their parks of Dr. King. But you won't find streets or highways or statues named after people who champion hate. During these times of our country, I can't think of a better day, a better memorial to remember than Dr. King, and to be people of love, be people of peace. Jesus said the greatest commandment is to love God and to love people. That's the essence of the gospel. Martin Luther King stood on that very premise as a man of peace and as a man of love. And what a great example that is for us all these years later.
The current state in our country is one filled with tension, hostility, frustration, anger, and dare I say, hatred. However, we must pray without ceasing. Paul tells us in 1 Timothy, the 2nd chapter and the 2nd verse, pray like this for kings and for all those who are in authority, that they may live a peaceful and quiet life, marked by godliness and holiness. That must be our prayer now, and that must be our prayer throughout the whole year of 2021. May God bless you and his peace be upon you.